We need to talk about YouTube sailing channels. You may be wondering why we need to talk about YouTube sailing channels, but it has come to our notice recently after a chat with a friend who is a bigwig in the sailing community here in Southeast Asia, that some of the channels are misinforming, getting things wrong and being downright offensive. So we need to talk about them.
Yep. But before that, where are we? Where are we floating around in this little D? We thought we'd change it up a bit. Since we're doing real-time updates, we are in Wedang, it's called, which is on the west side of Bali. And it has gone up there as one of my favourite anchorages of all time. We were told about this by our friends Mike and Danny, and also Terry on YouTube last week of Miss Saigon had said it's one of his favourites as well. So, yep, completely agree with you.
Absolutely lovely. What is it about it that's so great?
Complete protection.
Yeah, all seasons probably.
It's touristy, but it's not too hectic. And we have discovered a hotel where you can go to the hot springs within their confines and you pay for a day pass. And we had breakfast there yesterday, and not only was it cheap, it was absolutely brilliant. So it's nice to have a few sort of creature comforts on your doorstep.
Yeah, the food was really good, but more importantly, the coffee was really good, and that's the most important thing for you in the day. Yeah, so hot springs, we will be going to those before we leave this anchorage to head further on our journey towards Malaysia. But here we are at the moment, so this is the real-time update. Now, should we go back to the YouTube sailing channels, and while they are stirring things up for the rest of us?
This is going to be contentious. It's going to throw a cat among the pigeons. It's going to piss a few people off. It will maybe annoy some viewers, and it will certainly rattle the cages of a few YouTubers as well. And
we ain't going to name no names though, are we?
No names, but we've been thinking about this for a while. It's something that Liz and I frequently discuss, but it's only because we sat down with our friend recently who actually showed us a communication that they were having with another person in authority.
Equally important, very important person, both of them.
And they were both clearly upset by what is going on. And of course, we were a bit upset ourselves by this because we don't like seeing our friends in Southeast Asia being upset. So we thought it is about time we address this issue.
Yeah, so we needed to get to the bottom of what was upsetting them so much. I mean, you looked at the communication and one of them, very important person, said to this other very important person, I'm so hacked off with the way this YouTube channel is portraying my country. Can you make sure you don't let them into your marina?
Yeah, I think it's important to remember, and by the way, we should say, we appreciate every YouTuber is different in their style and their content. We're quite different to many of the much bigger channels actually. So we're not here trying to tell people how they should provide their content. But I think what we are saying is that perhaps there are a few things you could potentially avoid in order to not upset the locals, basically. And
give us all a bad name, because unfortunately YouTube channels, although they are only a teeny weeny tiny fraction of the sailing community, certainly over here there's very few of them, they have a massive massive impact on the locals.
The term used is influencers, and whether we like it or not, we are influencers because we do. I mean, we've had so many people come up to us saying, oh, we bought a boat and started sailing because of you guys.
Or they've come here to Southeast Asia because of what we've shown them.
Yeah. So, being an influencer is undeniable. We do influence people. And, of course, perhaps our viewing audience is perhaps slightly different compared to some of the other sailing channels. I'm not sure about that. But the fact is that what we say on camera has an impact, and there is no denying that. You can't get away from that. So with that in mind, sometimes we have to be a bit careful about what it is we're saying on camera, and how we conduct ourselves.
I think if you're going to criticise, you need to get your facts absolutely right. And do it in a nice way, in a non-offensive way, because people do take umbrage over here very easily. We all know about the loss of faith that they have on this side of the world. They're not used to dealing with criticism perhaps in the way we are, the way we brush it off. So everything is taken to heart. So when you're critical and you're doing it in an explosive way, it is really not appreciated over here.
It's something that we have discussed many times in the past, is this idea of the different way that people conduct themselves in Asia versus what we're used to in the West. Now, we know in the West that you can have a blazing stand-up face-to-face row with someone, a customer or someone who's serving you. You get it resolved, you put it to bed, and next day you wake up and it's forgotten about. And it doesn't work like that in Southeast Asia.
No, so we're going to start off with the whole being offensive idea. If you are effing and blinding, if you are using every swear word under the sun, even if it's bleeped, people don't like it here. You know, if you use a lot of them all the time, they are very shocked by it. I mean, we use the occasional one. We bleep them when we can. You can do that, it's fine. But just don't go overboard in Southeast Asia. It's not well received.
Well, I think the problem is that you may think that you are, just effing and blinding generally about a non-specific situation, but you don't have to be talking about any one or any place in particular for it to cause offence. We've swung round a bit, actually.
Yeah.
Should we do you want to sit over there and we'll get ourselves in the sun again?
That's all right, I don't think people care.
Just shift yourself over there. There we go. We'll probably be doing this. Oh, dinghy's tipping backwards.
Yep. You can see the mangroves. If you're watching, if you're not listening, you'll be able to see the mangroves behind us. It's a national park here. It's very beautiful. Anyway, we're talking about being offensive. This is the first thing. We're going to talk about misinformation as well later. That's a separate thing. But actually, being offensive is not a good idea. As I said earlier, it's not well received by the locals, but it puts us, all the people cruising this area, in a bad light. And we have known some local bigwigs just want to wash their hands of us.
Yes, we know of a number of channels who have been talked about by various, and we're talking here sort of marina managers and marina owners, boatyard owners, people that organise rallies. I think what you have to understand is that these people, they don't just know each other, but they talk to each other. They even visit each other. I mean, we've bumped into various marina managers in different countries as they've come over to visit another boatyard. These people know each other very well. It is a small community.
And they watch YouTube channels.
They don't just watch YouTube channels, they discuss YouTube channels.
Yes.
They understand that as YouTubers, we are influencers. And so they are watching every single word that we say on camera, knowing that it is going out to the public. And as YouTubers on a boat, we are effectively ambassadors.
We are ambassadors, and we, as you know, if you watch us at all, have been here for 11 years in this part of the world. And 99% of our videos are very positive. Occasionally, we do come up against a few problems and we try to explain them on camera. But we spend a lot of time showing you guys what we see, which is fantastic. I mean, there is nothing more beautiful than this part of the world and more natural, and the people are great. So don't just come here for the first time from wherever it is you've come from, badmouth the local people, go on about how crap it is over here, and then bugger off again. We see too much of that, not necessarily on YouTube, we see that just in boats just coming through, going straight through and out the other side and hating it.
Yeah, I think we're quite sensitive to it because we have made Southeast Asia our home. It means that we have lots of friends here, local friends, and of course other cruisers as well. And it's not just us, there are many, many cruisers here who are semi-permanent and they see Southeast Asia as their home, and they, like us, have lots of local friends. So when other cruisers steam through and just badmouth everything and be rude, objectionable, it hurts us as well as the local people as well. And I just don't think it's very fair to be doing that, because as ambassadors and influencers, you are influencing your audience to think a certain way, and you're going to leave a bad impression on your viewers, which isn't fair.
Yeah, now what I was going to say going on from that was that I get the impression a lot of people come here without doing any preparation, or they come with preconceived ideas, or they come with the same culture and way of doing things as in their own country. This isn't your own country. This is a very different to Australia, America, Europe. It's very different. And it takes time to really get under the skin of a place. So try, can I say this to anyone who's thinking of coming here, try to learn a little bit about what to do and what not to do, how to behave, what to wear, how to speak. As this very good friend of ours who we spoke to the other day said, a smile goes a long way. If you go into, if you're going to talk to, I don't know, Coast Guards, or you're going to talk to immigration, go in with a nice big smile, wear decent clothes, cover up. They really don't like it if you don't wear trousers and a shirt, and behave well. And all of this information is available online before you get here. Loads of information. You should be reading it. There is, and I've said it before, a fantastic group on Facebook called Sailing Southeast Asia. It's a Facebook group. It's full of people like us who've been here for years, and people who've been here a lot longer than we have, and people who are on their way here. And it's great. We get lots of questions from new people or people who are planning to come here, asking things that to us are basic but may not be. So get on that group, I'd say.
Sorry, we just need to change the scenery again. We're now going to switch around. Liz, we're going to sit facing forwards this time.
Well, this is all very fun, isn't it?
Yeah, well, this is live recording for you. We knew it would be like this.
Glad I wore pants.
By the way, we've tied to a little mooring buoy here. Anchoring can be quite tight here, and they've put mooring buoys down, so that's what we're hanging off of.
So what were we saying? We were talking about doing your homework before you get here and trying to learn as much as you can about it, and then the second thing is then obeying the rules.
Yes, I mean, you go on about the rules, and yes, that's agreed, but I think we can't emphasise enough is understanding local culture.
Yeah.
Understanding that raising your voice, swearing, being confrontational is just not the way it is done here, unfortunately.
And gets you nowhere. And gets you blacklisted.
I think part of the problem is that, when you've got a YouTube channel, and you may have set it up in your own country, quite rightly, you've got every right to put out whatever content you want. Yeah. We're not telling you that, well, we kind of are really, I suppose, but
we're just saying the way you present it sometimes, just have a step back and just think about what you're saying. And you can say all the things you want to say about a place, but just present it in a more positive attitude that's not going to piss off the locals.
Yeah.
This is what we're talking about when we're on land and dealing with bureaucracy and stuff like that. Obviously, when it's sailing, it doesn't matter at all.
No, it's funny too, dealing with bureaucracy. I mean, one of the issues with dealing with bureaucracy here is that you're quite often meeting middle management, and if there is an issue, it's very difficult to elevate that issue to the next level up, because that middle management are not in a position to bend the rules or to say, okay, maybe we need to go away and think about how we can change it or make the situation better. They have been told, right, this is the law, and the answer is always no or always yes to whatever question. The point being that they don't really have much control over what they can do with this situation. So if you find yourself in a situation like that, the first thing is not to get frustrated, because we see this all the time, is Westerners getting antsy and then argumentative and combative and generally sort of upsetting the local authorities here. They are not going to like that at all.
Won't get you anywhere.
It won't get you anywhere, but the point is that if you behave like that, it mars it for future cruisers who then come along, because of course these officials have now got an expectation that all Western cruisers behave like this. So you've got to keep that sort of temper in check.
You have to also, this is why the Facebook group is important, keep abreast of what the changes are, because there are lots of changes all the time in these countries, lots of different changes to visas and rules and where you've got to go and if you should check in at a port or not. These things are going on all the time. And in the Facebook group, you've got people who are sailing all the time, and they'll always have the latest that's happened to them. There has been a big kerfuffle off the coast of Malaysia, where there's a whole load of islands that are marine parks. And until recently, all of us have been anchoring there. But the authorities decided that we shouldn't be anchoring there at the moment. So there's been a big discussion about this, but really there is no discussion because the authorities have made that decision. Whether it's the right decision or not is not for us to say. It is the decision. So we know at the moment everybody's avoiding that area until we have clarity. It's just best to keep abreast and do as you're told.
Yeah, I won't comment on that particular situation specifically because I don't know enough details about it. But I think in those kind of situations, there are people you can talk to, and those people are, you know, the friends that we've made over years, the marina managers, the rally organisers, those kind of people that do have both the knowledge and a little bit of influence as well. Just had to change location. Camera overheated in the hot sun. It's not really designed for vlogging, this camera. Anyway, just a couple of other things that I think is worth mentioning is misinformation is one of those things that we see frequently where YouTubers don't do their research. I can think of one example where one YouTuber described Mount Kinabalu on what we call Borneo, a massive volcano.
It's not a volcano. In fact, they're quite proud about the fact that it's not a volcano.
It's one of the few islands in the Ring of Fire that isn't a volcano. It's not volcanic.
Yeah.
Another YouTuber described a particular island as being so remote and about as far offshore as you can get. And this particular island is a massive tourist destination for one particular country. It has its own airport and it's flying tourists in on a daily basis. And another YouTuber who went on a jungle trip and made out that they were going off-piste and this was unexplored, and it was a package trip that anyone can do. These are just examples of disingenuity. Is that the right word? It's a lack of
disingenuous.
Disingenuous, that's right. It is being disingenuous. It's not being honest. And I think if you are, I mean, okay, you want a bit of drama, of course, but if you dress.
But it's got to be real. It's got to be real drama. You don't need to take some of these places and change them into your idea of what a drama is, YouTube channels, because they're great and good and exciting enough on their own. So here we are telling YouTube channels not to do what they're doing. It's a bit naughty, isn't it?
Yes, well, we want to avoid it. But look, we're just having a little bit of a rant here because these are things that I think are, it's just not being honest. You know, and I think it's one of the things that we like to do is to show the world around us in an honest way. And that leads us on to context.
Yes. So having a go again, this is my favourite one, is just turn the camera the other way occasionally. I know you want to see yourself all the time, semi-naked and looking gorgeous and doing all the things that you're doing, YouTube channels, but let's have a look at what you're seeing, you know. It's this whole, you know, I'm an old fogey, it's this whole Instagram thing where you've just got to take pictures of yourself all the time. Let's get away from ourselves. Let's have a look at the beauty that we are surrounded by, particularly over here. There's so much beauty. Not just that, there are people and there are, you know, little businesses and things. So when you're having your coffee or when you're on the beach, and there are people all around you, let's have more of those people. Perhaps find out a name and chat to them. Show the business. Maybe put a link to the business. Yeah,
I think this really has come about by two conversations we've had with one marina manager and one boatyard manager who have had YouTubers come and visit their locations. One of them actually described one YouTube channel as a bunch of show ponies.
Yes.
Because they were frolicking around, just pointing to the camera themselves. Didn't mention where they were, didn't mention any of the staff, none of the people that were helping them out, and the same with another person we spoke to who was genuinely quite upset.
He couldn't understand how they could have stayed there all that time and never mentioned his marina.
Didn't mention anything about where they were once, just complained about trying to navigate in and out of this place. But it doesn't take much to just name check, you know, the marina manager or the staff, the restaurant that you're at. If you're, you know, super impressed with the service, is just show a bit of context and show who these people are that make up the places that you are visiting. I think that's the key thing, isn't it?
So we're really getting annoyed here now and getting ranty and just saying we don't like the way you're doing it. We're not saying you should do it like us. Definitely lots of lovely shots of your own self, but also just add in a little bit more about what's around you and get it right. If you're going to talk about where you are, get it right. Just don't say, oh look, that's an old house. There's quite often lots of history going on there and culture. It only takes one conversation, often with a local just standing there, who will tell you about it. Perhaps interview them, you know?
Yeah, but I think we have to accept that each channel has its own style. And we are, because we're just that much older and...
Not that much wiser.
And, you know, we don't like pointing at the camera ourselves too much. Obviously, we're doing it right now. But we do like to provide context and show you the people that we are meeting. And I guess not all YouTube channels want to do that. You know, a lot of YouTube channels, their viewers only are invested in them themselves.
The people, and that's fine. If that's what you're doing, then that's fine. But I do think it's important to include local people.
Just, well, if not, and then nothing else, just get your facts right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right.
Whew. Done.
There's probably loads more to say on this, but we're not going to say any more. We've tried not to be too specific and name or shame, so hopefully that's worked.
Yes.
We've got something else now.
Okay, so if you are listening to this podcast, we're going to stop now and then we're going to jump to the very end. We're going to come back and just quickly show you our anchoring gear and what we're doing with anchoring, just as a little extra for the actual podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, we are now going to go back to our vlog and do some catching up. And you never know, we may even get in the water. So what we're doing here is just getting that bronze shoe back into position. And as you can imagine, there's quite a bit of sanding to do just to get the alignment of the bolt holes correct. And I think Hendro, are you happy?
No.
No, Hendro's never happy. There's always something wrong. And now he's dropped one of the bolts down the hole. That looked all right to me, but let's see what Hendro has to say about it. Just to remind ourselves, but we need to make sure that all of this fits into place before we put the rudder up first. We have to put the rudder up into position, suspend it in place, and then we slip on the shoe. But we don't want to do any of that until we're convinced that the shoe fits correctly. Now I thought he had all three bolts in place, but what was the problem, Henjo?
More like this.
Okay. Yeah, so what we're finding is that shoe is just very slightly that way, so we need to push it over that way, and that probably means removing some fiberglass at the back bottom edge around there. We need to make sure this fits properly. Okay, day of reckoning now, so we've done all the sanding and we think we've got a fit. So what we're going to do now is try and haul up that rudder. This is using Hendro's block and pulley system, and we've got one of the guys from the yards to help us. Roll forward 15 minutes and we've got this far now. So it's 2/3 of the way up. Obviously with his ratchet system he has to stop. We have to hold the rudder in place so that he can then rethread his ratchet system because obviously it's reached the end. So I'm just going to put some blocks underneath the rudder, just hold it in place, but it's now out of the hole. So that's good progress, isn't it? I've been dreaming of this day for a very long time. So slight problem, I went up into the lazarette just to guide the top of the rudder stock that goes through the deck eventually, and it's not aligning straight. Hendro seems to think it's because we've forgotten to put the bronze cap over the grease point, But I am looking at the skeg, and as the bronze shoe is coming up the skeg, it's taking great big chunks of fiberglass out. So I think that bottom part of the skeg has been over fiberglassed and is therefore pushing the rudder out of alignment. What's happening, Hendro?
No happen. It's good.
Right, Hendro thinks it's good, I think it's good. So basically this has gone up and down a few times because we needed to make sure that with the rudder fitted, the bronze shoe fits up onto this and the bolts align, and it's a different matter when the actual rudder is in place. Anyway, we think we've got it, so they've just dropped it for the last time, and we are now going to do what we did last time, which is to epoxy it in place. And this is what Oyster did originally, and actually when you think about it, it makes sense because when this shoe is in place without any filler, there's a little bit of movement. So by putting epoxy in, you're essentially using the epoxy as a filler, and that will prevent any kind of movement, lateral movement or diagonal movement of this once it's in place. And then we're going to epoxy the bolts into place. So if you remember, the bronze shoe comes up to about here where it meets the rest of the skeg, and there's a great big sort of gap there. So what I wanted to do was to fill that in. So essentially what I've done is I've just glass fibered over the skeg itself, over the bronze, just one layer, which of course left it a little bit lumpy. So I've then filled it using epoxy filler, sanded it back, filled it in some more, sanded back, and we end up with a pretty smooth finish. I'm quite pleased with that. Quite often you'll find as offshore cruisers, you'll end up with horrible dirty stains down the side of your boat. And we've used many products in the past. What we've found works best is rust remover. And I'm going to show you the difference it makes by applying neat rust remover, which is obviously a diluted chemical, and I can't remember what the active ingredient is. If I remember, I'll put it in the description below. But this works wonders, this stuff. The trick is though is to wash it off as quickly as possible once you've applied it, after giving it a scrub, and then hose it down with some detergent and water. And well, then you have to look at this to see what a difference it makes. Dirty, clean. Dirty, clean. Not entirely sure how well this is coming out, but that's the dirty stain all along there. I remember some years ago we met an offshore cruiser and she said that this is a badge of honour. It shows you that your boat has been places. Honestly, this stain we picked up within a few days of dropping back in the water last Christmas, and it was as a result of just the oily shit floating around in the water at the anchorage outside the boatyard. So I'm not entirely sure I'd call this a badge of honour. I think this says a lot more about the polluted seas that we're sailing in, but that's another story. Maybe from this angle you can just see the difference there between dirty and clean. And it's coming off really quickly as well, so yeah, I definitely recommend this stuff. As I say, key thing is keep hosing it down with fresh water, especially if you're a painted boat like us.
It's lunchtime, well it's 12 o'clock and I've been up since 5, so it's about time we had lunch. You have borrowed a bike, hired a bike, so we came over on the scooter, so not far from the marina. Ballyjukung, it's a homestay where quite a few people stay, but they do the honey. That's our main reason for coming here. They do honey made from the smallest bees in the world, and we love it.
Stingless bees.
Stingless bees, indeed. Really unusual and a very sweet place, all local, and that's not a bad thing.
As Liz says, this is local. It's a local family-run homestay, and just beautifully appointed among running water, little streams and ponds, and lots of shade, and your classic Lombok style houses as well, with the big straw steep roofs. Well, as she said, we know quite a few people have stayed here, and because it's not far from the boatyard, it makes a lot of sense. Getting out of the hot, sweaty, dusty boatyard and coming to somewhere like this for the end of the day, I can see how people like it. And in fact, we know people who have stayed here literally months. Here's the beehive, or the beehives. They are stingless bees. This is the owner, yes?
Yes.
Your nama?
Midi.
Midi.
Yeah.
So Midi has been running this place for quite some years, I believe, and I don't know if this is coming out on camera, but I'm literally standing right in the middle of a swarm.
We already split from the other box. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't know how much of that is coming out on camera. There we go, look at that. So they're now building this nest, yeah? So this is a new one.
The new one.
This is new.
From the old box we split.
I see. So you take some out from the other one and put in the new one.
Propolis.
Wow, look at this.
See?
Wow.
So many honey and egg.
Look at that.
You can try this. Take it. Yeah.
This?
The honey, yeah.
I can try this?
Yeah.
And eat all of this?
Yeah, you can eat.
Look at this.
Very delicious. Oh, nice. Yummy.
Dripping down my... Oh.
Yummy.
Oh, it's so good. So good. I ate a whole load of wax as well. And as I put it in the mouth, it all burst. Dripped down my chin. God, it's so good. It really is. I'm not joking. It is some of the best honey we have ever had. It's another one of those pre-sunrise beautiful mornings, and you'll notice as I pan over my left shoulder there, you can see the tide is right out. That means we have at least 6 hours before we drop in the water. Yes, folks, you heard that right. We are dropping in the water today. All the anti-fouling is done. As you know, the rudder is done. Filled and fed the rudder with a layer of fiberglass, filler. We think we're pretty much ready. Here's our beautiful looking clean Esper. Doesn't she look great, eh? And all that's left really is to get the tractor or the trailer underneath, lift her up, and then we've got to finish off those little spots where the struts have been sitting, obviously underneath the keel. And one final thing is to peel away the tape. Now Liz isn't around to do this, so I guess I'll do this myself. Well, if you're a regular viewer, you'll have seen all this before. It's the tractor backing up to get underneath Esper. Quite a tight space because for some reason they've got a little motorboat parked right in the middle of the boatyard, and they're just going to put the trailer underneath and then hoist us up so we can finish painting off those little patches there. Lots of people on standby, hanging around waiting, and a few raised voices as we manoeuvre that trailer underneath Esper. Well, it's always a refreshing, pleasant sight to see sea. The only problem is there appears to be a boat moored right in the slipway. I'm not sure what we're going to do about that. Right, the last clip was us still in the boatyard, and where are we now, Elizabeth? Give us an update.
We are on the water, we are on the water. It is cool. It's the first time I've been cool in 3 months. We've got a big storm over there coming across from the volcano, and it's just heaven on earth being back in the water.
How did the drop-in go?
It went very smoothly. It was better than I could possibly predicted or would have predicted, because I always believe it's going to go wrong, but here we are, tied up on a mooring buoy. Engine worked okay. It's all good.
So as Liz says, everything is good. We're on a mooring. She's whittering behind me, telling me what to do already. All I want to do, she just said, let's go and have some lunch. I said, I'm not going anywhere. I am staying on the boat. Even if it pisses with rain and even if it blows up, I don't care. It's all about the breeze, to be honest. We cannot emphasise enough what it's like in that boatyard when there is no breeze. And if there is a breeze, it's always blowing burnt plastic smoke. But as Liz says, drop-in went nice and smoothly, actually. I was a bit concerned about the boat on the mooring right by the entrance, but as we approached it, the wind dropped, and so he turned his bum away from us, and yeah, easy drop-in. Engine started first time, and to top it all, we even had depth, which I really wasn't expecting. That normally needs a thorough clean and a dry before that operates, but yeah. The other important thing we had to check was the rudder stock. Obviously that's all new. That was greased yesterday by myself, and it looks like I must have done it right because there's no water coming out. So yeah, cue glasses, time for some lunch. Right, we're going to take you up to the front of the boat. Now this is really just a very quick overview of what we get up to when we anchor. If you would like us to do something in more depth, then we will. We have done whole episodes on how to anchor properly, but I'm going to hand you over to our anchor deployment expert.
Yeah, I do the front end, you do the middle bit, the easy bit, the steering bit.
I'm going to stand around this side.
Oh, okay.
So for those of you just listening, we are now at the front of the boat, and we are looking at Liz. Now we are at anchor, so you can't see the anchor, but
just explain quickly what there is here, shall I?
Yep.
So we're going to show you what we do, and we have had the same anchor. It's a Rockner anchor since Turkey, which we bought in 2007 or 8, something like that. Still the same anchor. Can't show it to you because it's down on the bottom. But we keep our chain in the locker down under my feet, and it's very shallow, which means I have to flake it. So I flake it when it comes up, and when it comes out, I just check it all the time so I can always see what's happening with the chain. Sounds laborious, and we will show you. If you do want to see us anchoring right from the beginning, we'll show you all of that. But there are lots of reasons why we do it, but that's what we do. I have a very good idea of what's going on with the chain all of the time because I'm here looking at it all of the time, seeing it going up, seeing it going down, seeing it in the locker. I know exactly what's going on. So up and down buttons, like everybody has, goes through the windlass. The windlass here is a Lofrans. We got this, we brought it back from the UK.
Lofrans Tigris, and it's
yes.
a 1500 watt windlass. Now, there are two different types of windlass. There's vertical and horizontal. We used to have a vertical windlass. What that means is that the main shaft of the windlass goes vertically through the hull. The advantage of this is that the chain will wrap around the windlass 180 degrees, so there's more chain touching the windlass itself. With a horizontal like this one, now for those watching you can see there's a horizontal shaft that runs like so, but what this means is the chain is only touching 90 degrees, and this does mean that there isn't so much chain gripping when you're deploying and raising the anchor, so that can be a disadvantage. The main advantage though, because we did have a vertical windlass, was that if you imagine the shaft is sticking up through the deck, it's a recipe for attracting mud, crud, salt and all kinds of things, and cleaning it is very difficult. You have to take the whole thing apart and replace all the bearings to keep it clean, and that becomes really problematic.
So we'll use this to deploy and retrieve the chain chain lives in the locker underneath my feet. Also under this locker there is a hose, which is seawater hose, and I use that all the time just to clean off. It was a brilliant invention of Jamie's to put one up here, because before that I used to have to use a bucket of water over the side, and cleaning the deck was a nightmare. We have about 60 metres of chain out in a depth of around 18 metres, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, normally we'd put out at least 4 times scope, sometimes 5, but we're in a very flat anchorage here.
Yes, it's a little bit tight, so we're pretty confident here. So you then, on top of your chain, you need to use a snubber, which is a piece of rope generally, which is plaited, which allows it some movement so that it will go in and out. It's the sort of thing you would use on a pontoon to tie your boat, just to give you that give, a little elasticity. So that's attached to the chain. We use a mantis hook. In the olden days, I used to use an icicle hitch, which was great, but you used to worry that in an emergency I wouldn't be able to get it undone quickly enough. That was the reason we stopped that. So I use this mantis hook. It's great. I don't think it's ever failed. It came with a nice piece of big thick rubber which helped you attach it to the chain, but we lost that within 2 weeks, so we've never bothered with replacing it and don't need it. So that's great. So all the strain now, if we were to go up and down, you know, if the waves were to come in, if the wind was to come in, all the strain is now on the snubber.
Great. Right, okay, I think we can do this in more detail.
Yeah,
Obviously,
there's a lot to say.
It's difficult also to show anything when half of our gear is underwater lying on the seabed.
Yeah.
We have done an episode on how to anchor properly. We did that years ago, actually, in Penang.
Yeah.
We'll put a link to that in the description.
Probably do an update.
Yeah, we could do an update, I suppose.
So if anyone's interested, while we're on passage and you want us to do something on our anchoring, our technique and all our gear, let us know. And what we'll do is that at whatever anchorage, we'll do the whole thing, shall we?
Yeah.
Film the whole thing.
Yep. Okay, right. I think that's it for this week. We've had a rant. We've caught up on our vlog. Well, we haven't caught up. We're catching up on our vlog. Obviously, as always, if you have any comments, then please do leave them in the comment section.
Yes, do. Great talking to you. I wonder where we'll be next time.